Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers McSwine.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this week's National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. I'm your co-host, Florence Myers McSwine. I'm here with your host, Mr. Lee Martin, as well as our special guest today, Ms. Frances Durham. Welcome to today's show.
Welcome to the show, Ms. Durham.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, we are lucky or fortunate to have Zoom, where we can reach across the country and have you all the way from Norfolk, Virginia. So we just want to say welcome to you and many of your colleagues that probably be viewing this show. So let's talk a little bit about the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. You're a subscriber to that service. So tell me, what is the value of the NFB Newsline to you?
Well, I feel like the Newsline is a value to me to have access to the newspaper, to actually be able to read the newspaper, magazines, information from the Federation of the Blind, and information basically from all over the country, magazines, and to use it as discussions on my job and in the organizations that I am in, and it's something that I do share with other blind people as I meet them in some of the other groups that I'm in.
Now, is there a preference? Do you particularly read the newspapers and magazines? You have a preference?
My preference is our local newspaper, the Hampton Roads Virginian Pilot, to get local information and the information like the Braille Monitor. My life is so busy. I wish I had more time to read, but it's mainly our local paper for now.
Okay, right, and thank you for that. And now I particularly love reading the magazines. There is we have a big choice to select from. And since I am a senior, I read AARP magazine. I love reading Guidepost magazine. I love having access to NFB Newsline through my iPhone, which that's the tool that I like to use.
Yes.
And Lee?
Yes, there's so much excitement about this National Federation of the Blind Service, NFB Newsline. And I tell you, some of the excitement surrounds the breaking news category, where there's over 38 publications that's by web. And it is such an interesting publications to read. It updates itself throughout the day, every 45 minutes to an hour. Some of the publications are ABC, BBC, CNN, Huffington Post, and there's a new publication on there called Root, R-O-O-T. And we also have a new publication called RAP, R-A-P. So those are great publications for people that just want to find out and keep up with what's going on in the breaking news category. We also have 17 national publications, all the way from the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, um, and USA Today. So there's so much to read on the NFB Newsline. And one of the ways that I like to access it now is the Amazon Alexa. And that particular device is very popular and is developing and getting more and more users as people love to speak to the device. Some of the other devices as we have, the new mobile app that we had is called 3.0, and there's a lot of interest there. So if you want to learn more about the service, the National Federation of the Blind Newsline service, just visit us at nfbnewsline-in.org and follow our commercials to gather more information. And you can also go to our nfbnewsline.org on our national office located in Baltimore, Maryland. So we're going to take a short pause, and when we come back, we'll be talking with our guest of the day. This is Francis Durham, all the way from Norfolk, Virginia. Stay tuned.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
Wow, I scored a touchdown when I found sports on NFB Newsline.
I enjoy reading TV guide listings on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind. We read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show, where our guest this week is Miss Francis Durham, all the way from Norfolk, Virginia. Francis, welcome to our show once again.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Ms. Durham,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about you. Let's start with your early childhood, if you would.
Okay. Well, when I was born with a vision disability, and the doctors, they didn't know what the cause was. They said it could have been an infection and that I may have gotten in utero. So as I got older, well, I never could see out of my left eye, but I could see out of my right eye for a lot of years. I went to school in Hampton, Virginia, a school for deaf and blind children. And it took my mother a while to decide to send me there. So I was about 7 years old, starting kindergarten, because you had to live away from home. So I went to the Hampton School, and I graduated high school there. And then I went to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, and I have a degree, a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Okay. Now, let's back up, if we would. Now, were you an only child, Francis?
No, I am, there are 6 of us, and I'm next to the youngest. So I'm number 5.
You mentioned that it took a while for your mom to decide to take you to the school because you had to live away from home. I understand that.
Mhm.
I understand that. And because of the vision impairment, were you treated any different than the other children in your family? Or are you the only one who had an eye condition?
I am the only one who has an eye condition. And I was probably sheltered more. Everyone else, well, actually I wasn't, because I had to wash dishes and had a couple chores just like everyone else. And because I did still have some vision, I was allowed to go outside by myself. And I used to get teased by other children because my eyes, I had what's called nystagmus, and my eyes would move a lot. They called it dancing eyes. So I used to get teased a little bit, but I I would just make a joke out of it and and keep going too. So
Well, so some of the challenges that you faced just being a child, we know children can be children, and sometimes we all can be a little cruel as children, and but you did overcome that. So
yeah.
you said for the school for the deaf and blind, could you tell us a little bit about that school setup and the academy, the academics there?
Okay. So basically, at the school, we were taught the same thing as the other students, except we had very small classroom sizes. There might have been 5 children in a class, no more than 10, and 10 was rare. So we lived on campus, and there was little girls dorm, the big girls dorm, the little boys dorm, and the big boys dorm, and the blind children were on one hall and the deaf children were on the other hall, but we were able to communicate. And actually, when I first went there, we were mixed together. My roommate was deaf, but then at a later time, they kind of put us with the blind with the blind. So, and we did basically the same things that other kids did. As I got older, when I was in school, I was in spelling bees that I loved and I won. And I, as I got older, I was a cheerleader. I was in the band. I took piano lessons and clarinet lessons. So we had a pretty active. They kept us pretty busy.
Now, as far as the school that you attended, you said you had to live on campus. So how far away from it was your home?
About 30 miles.
Okay. So your family, were they able to visit you?
They were for the first month they recommend no, so that we could get used to being away from home. But then after that, yes, they were allowed to visit. However, my mother didn't drive at the time. So matter of fact, when she took me to the school, I think we went on a Greyhound bus. So, and she told me when she left, she cried all the way home. And but later, they did make it so we had a bus to go home on weekends. And then after I left the school, they did arrange it to where the children could go home every day.
It sounded like you, in your school, in your academics, sounds like you excelled in your studies. So sounds like you were a very conscientious student, as well as active in the events and things that were going on at the school.
I was very much so, but I was also a normal girl, so I used to listen when I'm in class, and I would always try to stay up on my classwork. And if I heard a boy's voice in the hall that I liked, I would make an excuse to get out of class. I was a typical kid. So yes.
So you enjoyed the as a cheerleader. Now that kind of interests me. Now being blind and at that school, did the deaf and blind play sports together, or did you cheer together? Can you tell me how that process worked?
Okay, the cheerleaders, the sports were mixed with the deaf and the blind children. We had basketball that we cheered for. We had a wrestling team, and all of the boys on the wrestling team were blind. And we used to travel to different states and tournaments, and we were pretty active, and yes, all of the cheerleaders were either on a deaf team or blind team.
Well, that is so interesting, and just like Florence said, it just seems as though you had a very fulfilled youthful education there. And when we're going to come back, we're going to talk a little bit about your education in college or secondary education. So we're going to take a short pause, and we're going to come right back with our guest. Enjoy the commercials, and we'll see you shortly. No pun intended.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We want to welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. And today we're enjoying our conversation with Mrs. Frances Durham. So, Ms. Frances Durham, Florence has some questions for you.
I certainly do. We were talking earlier about your education, and you updated us to your education as in college. Now, just for the record, what college did you attend?
I attended the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay, and now what was your field of study?
My field of study was psychology. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Okay, and now tell us a little bit about your education and going forward to your employment.
Okay. Now, when I went to the university, as far as I knew, I was the only blind person there. I was in a regular dorm with everyone else, and I still had a little vision left. I started losing my vision gradually in my teens. So by the time I went to college, I had lost a lot of it. And when I was in school before, I read large print. They had large print books for us. But once I went to college, I had lost a lot of my vision. Of course, they didn't have computers like they do now. So I had to order my books from, I can't think of the name of it, services. It was in New York, I believe, for individuals who needed large print or audio books. But by the time I would get the list of the books at the beginning of the semester and order the books, the class would be just about over. So I had to get readers, someone to read to me what was in the book. So the Department for the Blind and Vision Impaired gave money or paid someone. I could find someone who could get paid. So I would ask my professors at the beginning of the class if I can ask if someone were interested in reading for me, since they had to read the books anyway. So that was pretty much how I went through my exams. I had to take in a separate place. They would give the information to me, and I would have someone to read it and write down the answers for me. So I will say now, when I graduated high school, I had a 3.5. But when I graduated from college, it was nowhere near there. I graduated on a wing and a prayer because I had to constantly adjust. I had to, like I was saying, by the time I got the books, the classes were just about over. But I graduated. It was
Right.
not
Well,
easy at all.
so some of the obstacles that you faced are really, I'm hoping that our college students now are overcoming those with the technologies, as you stated, where they can have better access and do things more independently.
I'm
I think
positive.
seeing a
Yeah.
lot of that. Now, as we move forward here, you graduated from college, and how was life for you after that, trying to find a job?
Okay. So when I came home and I was looking for employment, and the Department for the Blind, I was still working with them, and I had a counselor, and I looked and looked and created a resume, and I really had a hard time finding a job. Also, so I it took a lot of years actually for me to find employment, and I got married, and my husband was in the Navy at the time, so we moved around to different states, and that was interesting, also a challenge. And I had one daughter at that time, so I taught her to be my eyes, so that we can accomplish going different places and doing different things. So once we moved back to Virginia, I went to a meeting of some people who had gone to the blind school, and a gentleman there who is blind, who was the executive director at the Peninsula Center for Independent Living, heard that I was looking for employment. So he offered me employment there, and that's where I started back in 1996. Now I work at an independent center in Norfolk. I used to have to travel about 30 miles to go to work, and I would have to find someone. The paratransit didn't go over there, so I had to find someone to take me to work and pick me up every day. And so I did that, and other people used to get in trouble because they would be late and I never was. So I got to work every day. And then I started working on this side in Norfolk, and my job title is Community Work Incentive Coordinator under the Ticket to Work program.
And what does that job entail?
Okay, for individuals who receive SSI, Supplemental Security Income, SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, between the ages of 14 to retirement age, if they want to go to work and they receive those benefits, they need to know how working will impact their benefits. So I am a benefits counselor, and I explain to them about different work incentives that they may or may not qualify for that will help them to keep their Medicare and or Medicaid medical benefits while they're working.
Well, so with 70% unemployment rate in our blind community, and with the work that you do, what would you say would be the biggest challenge for individuals? Are they trying to hold on to their Social Security, or are they really trying to go back to work or go to work?
Well, actually, they can keep their Social Security if they earn up to a certain amount of money. And the work incentives will also help them possibly to keep their Social Security benefits. For example, if someone is blind, they could earn, and they receive SSDI, they could earn up to $2,110 a month before they would lose their Social Security disability benefits. And that's because of technology is very expensive for individuals who are blind or vision impaired. We have to pay for transportation, and there may be so many other different things. So we basically will help people to look at all of those areas to help them to make an informed choice as far as employment is concerned.
Now, is the employment income considerably less for people receiving SSI, Francis?
The SSI amount is a set amount, more or less. For example, the most that someone would get this year is $783 a month. Some people get both. It can get very complicated. SSDI is based on someone's work activity. Therefore, I've known someone who was receiving something like over $2,000 in SSDI because of the work that they did. So it varies.
So we're going to take a short pause. I tell you, we've learned a lot here, and there's so much more to learn, and we only have so much time. So we're going to take a short pause and come back with the conclusion of our program.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Welcome to the conclusion of our show. Now, Ms. Francis, did you want to leave something with our listening audience?
Yes, for individuals who have any type of disability, the Ticket to Work program is available to help individuals who would like to go to work to know how working impacts their benefits. The program helps them to find employment. They're called employment networks, agencies to help with the actual employment search and the benefits counseling. A phone number that they can call is 1-866-968-7842, or they can go online and go to Choose Work, or they can go to the Social Security website and find information as well about the Ticket to Work.
Well, we want to thank you so very much, and we look forward to talking with you in the future. And thank you for the great services that you do for the blind and disabled communities.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.